We go from one banger match to another one in terms of fixtures here as we are in the StarCraft 2 Legends Tournament. We've already concluded one of our best of fives. MC now finds himself in that grand final. And who's going to join him? Will it be Stephano or will it be MVP? I was saying to you guys in the back, I'm actually just so giddy about this. I haven't been this giddy in such a long time when it comes to a tournament. Okay, we get to cover some awesome stuff. But it's so weird being in this scenario. ZG, Pig joining me here. ZG, this is going to be great. Stephano versus MVP.
This is so silly, like in the most amazing way possible, of course. But it's exactly what I don't know. It reminds, I think, people of how good those days were, honestly. The old days were really better. The players were better too, apparently. Just put MC into the main tournament.
Yeah, as we see Kira Dark doing some Vita. Get them out of there! Get them out of there! That's not them. And, well, you know what?
No, we'll bring them forward.
Also, no. Yeah, I suppose. Pig, talk to me about Stephano versus MVP here.
You know, Stephano MVP, they've got history going back many years. It's so fascinating because you've got MVP, who was the king of wings, as in the king of Wings of Liberty, the first expansion of StarCraft 2, or I guess the original game you should call it. MVP was unstoppable. He won so many GSLs. He was the master of pulling out a proxy 2 racks in the Game 7 or the Game 6 of a Grand Finals, and he was just absolutely unstoppable for a period of about 2 years, like 2011 to kind of 2013.
Yes.
MVP was just second to none.
Yeah, definitely so. ZG, your thoughts coming in?
I'm just thinking of the fact that he represented Europe in a
He did do that, yes.
Yeah, no, MVP certainly was the greatest. I mean, there's a reason that we don't really talk about GOAT status from that time for anyone else. It's always, of course, right now, Cyril and Maru. But then MVP is like always thrown in there as opposed to some of the other guys who dominated maybe from like 2013 to 2018, right? So everyone loves MVP, and he obviously has a natural talent, but he's also one of the players who disappeared the most. He had wrist problems, and he kind of just, literally stopped playing and didn't really do that retirement thing where he actually didn't stop playing. He did, and he came back to streaming once, and that was it.
That's fantasy. You're close, guys.
We're close. We're getting closer.
Yeah, I see Stephano, and I also see fantasy.
This is Brood War versus StarCraft 2. But anyways, Stephano, actually, we were just talking about like when people played, because we were all just like all over the place. Like, no, they played this time. Wait, that was also that time. But Stephano is actually placed in like a premier tournament. Or like a challenger, I suppose, like that as well. Every year in StarCraft 2. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, every year he managed to get like back in like a home story cup for like 2018 or something, and it still counted, right?
Of course, a home story. Let's be real. But Pig, I mean, looking at how it kind of plays out, I mean, Zombie Girl brings up a great point. The MVP is the original GOAT, and there's really no disputing that. I suppose people might look out there and say like, oh, it might be an ST, it might be MC, but come on, it was MVP.
He was the greatest in the early years by far. I mean, there's players who came up and it was if you beat MVP in a big tournament, oh my lord, that was like such a huge achievement because he was so consistent there. Stephano, though, on the other hand, just had such an unparalleled rise to success as well, where it was like, we hadn't seen a foreign player explode so suddenly until Stephano did that. Like, it was from who is this guy to he's beating the best of the best, going through these killer brackets and winning big events.
Yeah, never ever will I ever forget MVP in WCS Europe recovering from 5 workers against Tefl. Those kinds of... We think Maru is able to recover in silly situations. That was possibly the silliest, ZG.
I just love when people bring that up because I actually think I remember watching that live, and I was like... I was a fan, so I was like super smart. I was like, these guys.
Oh, you watched me? Oh, no, I just
watched you so often. Anyways, but it was I think a combination of that time where Zerg players couldn't quite like cut the head off the snake type situation when they actually won, basically with like I think it was an all-in, right? That put MVP in the situation, and then MVP doing exactly what Terran should do. So I don't think it's gonna happen again. But of course, it was a historic moment. What comes to mind when you think of Stephano's play, though? Because for me, it's definitely 4GG losing all his medavacs.
Yeah, that definitely stands out. And Apollo going,
anything.
oh, fireworks! Like, as I was casting with him, that was a good time.
I mean, I think of Roaches. Originally,
the regional Max
Stephano was just like, oh, do you know if you're actually really perfect at hitting your creep spread and your injects, you can have 200 supply of Roaches way faster than anyone else. And people are like, well, that's not a good strategy. Roaches aren't that good. And he's like, if I have this many, yes, it is.
I remember actually Idra because he streamed, and I was a huge Idra fangirl. I watched his streams all the time. Dubstep will forever live in my mind. But I remember like someone asked him about Stephano's strategy, and he was like really critical of it. He was like, it's not that great. Like, it's not going to stick around and stuff. And of course, it basically developed as a third thing for the next decade.
Imagine that Idra being critical.
That's so weird.
You know, we should get Idra back on one day. That would be amazing.
That would be
Actually,
great.
I was musing in the back. You know what? Screw it. Let's do a 16-player Legends tournament. Just get everybody back in there.
Yeah.
I would actually lose my cool.
And for
if we
some
did
reason,
that.
Combat X is there as well.
Well,
great.
steady on, steady on. You trying to rope Deezer in as well? No, thank you. Absolutely not. We're just a few more minutes out before we actually get to this. Any other tidbits, Pig? I remember even you playing over in our studios back in the ESL days. It was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I always good memories. The first time meeting Stephano, and he's like, "You look really nervous," and I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "But you've been playing for years. Why are you nervous? That's stupid." And then he just kind of walked away, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I guess." That man has not felt an ounce of nervousness any time on stage. He just looks so relaxed up there. He looks fantastic. And remember, he was one of the OG Broodlord Infesta kind of players who showed how to beat people in late game as well. So he's always had kind of that whole package.
You know, but like he was, you're not wrong, but to like, I don't know. I feel like when you saying he's like a Broodlord Infesta player, I'm just like, so he's a terrible person and I hate him.
He
Great.
showed people what could be done if you had no holds barred.
Yeah. But he wasn't only a Broodlord Infester. He wasn't only good because of it, because literally of the thing I just talked about earlier. That's the important thing.
Look, as long as you don't remind me of Heart of the Swarm and Swarm Host games where I got stuck in these ridiculous series, you also got stuck in
Yes,
them
I did.
when it came to Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, you were on like the main stage, and like 50,000 people were watching you lose your mind, and it was just like me and Rifkin, and like 5,000 people, and we're just like, this is fun, this is cool, this is cool.
All right, thank you very much, guys. It is time. It's 2023, and we get to witness Stephano versus MVP. It's going to be a good one. The winner goes on to play against MC in the grand final of the Legends tournament.
Well, Fancy. We got the player that made StarCraft look cool and the player that made StarCraft look easy, and they are about to throw down in the year 2023.
I mean, they are called legends for a reason. أعزائنا المشاهدين، الأبطال الآخرين اللي بنشوفهم الآن في النصف النهائي هذا يتأهلون على طول إلى النهائي. راح نشهدهم الآن ستيفانو MVP من أفضل اللاعبين ينحى العالم، هم الناس اللي بدوا أصلاً في عالم ستاركرافت. راح نشهدهم في المسرح.
They last faced off in 2013 at the WCS EU Grand Finals. Now they're going to throw down once more here on this stage.
And for that match, it was 4-1 for MVP, so we don't know which one is going to win. فعشان كذا راح نشوف أعزائنا المشاهدين مين اللي راح يقدر ينافس، لأنه في آخر مرة تواجهوا في WCS قدروا إنهم يتواجهون بمباراة وكانت best of 7 وبالأخير قدر MVP إنه يفوز. فهل يقدر يسويها مرة ثانية في البست اوف 5 اللي معنا اليوم؟ هذا اللي راح نشهده الآن.
Both of these players not only contributed so much in the terms of StarCraft, in terms of strategy, in terms of, you know, the games that we all got to enjoy, but they were really innovators in the space for how to present themselves. MVP, constantly professional, always showing up. Stephano, I'm going to say constantly professional, always showing up, but you know what I mean.
Definitely two of the most influential players we have ever seen in StarCraft. فعشان كذا أعزائنا المشاهدين الأبطال هذول قاعدين نسميهم legends لأنهم هم من أكثر المؤثرين في عالم StarCraft وهم اللي فعلا يستحقوا انهم يقال عنهم legends. فعشان كذا خلونا نرحب فيهم في المسرح ونبدأ بأول واحد.
I think it is time to start this match and I cannot wait any longer, so let's meet our first player. The legend, MVP! Four-time winner of the GSL, six-time finalist. He was the third to Triple Crown, right behind MMA and MC, but then he went around and did it again, a two-time Triple Crown winner. The 2011 LG 3D World Championship winner, winner of MLG Anaheim 2011, BlizzCon 2011, WCG in Busan 2011, IEM Cologne 2012, is he still walking? WCS Europe 2013, and just an all-around nice guy.
Honestly, all these titles show that why is he a legend. أعزائنا المشاهدين سمعتوا كل التايتلز اللي موجودة مع الشخص هذا من أفضل اللاعبين في عالم ستاركرافت، وزي ما أنتم شايفين من يوم ما فاز ال LG 3D في عام 2011 وهو كان يعتبر أسطورة في عالم ستاركرافت. فخلاص الآن راح نشهد مرة ثانية في هذا الشو ماتش، لكن خلونا نشوف خصمه مين، لأن خصمه أبدا مو بسهل. رحبوا معنا في المسرح The Legend ستيفانو. ستيفانو من افضل اللاعبين اللي بدأوا في عالم ستار كرافت، زي ما احنا عارفين هو من اكثر الناس اللي عنده تايتلز لا نهائية حرفيا من عام 2011. دائما نتكلم عن اللاعب هذا انه هو المثال الاعلى لكثير من الزرق بلايرز، والان راح نشهده مرة ثانية في هذا الزرق ضد التيرم ماتش اب، بتكون من احلى ما يكون.
Stephano won his first major in 2011 at the French Masters Series, and then he went on to win the IGN Pro League 3, ESWCG 2011, Lone Star Clash in 2012, NASL Season 3, WCS Europe 2012, Lone Star Clash 2 as well, Nation Wars 3, and Ilias, you're just one of my favorites. I love you, dude.
Legends indeed. أعزائي المشاهدين، الآن راح نشوف وش اللي ممكن يقدمونه، لأنه زي ما احنا ذكرنا في آخر مرة تواجهوا فيها بست اوف 7 كانت فاز فيها MVP. الآن نبي نشوف ستيفانو إذا يقدر يرد له الصحصحين بعد كم؟ بعد أكثر من 10 سنوات في آخر مواجهة لهم على مسرح عالمي.
Legends, please join us center stage to shake hands.
تحية ما شفناها من أكثر من عقدة أعزائنا المشاهدين. الآن راح نشهدها في الرياض في مملكة العربية السعودية في جيمرز 8. خلونا نشوف من اللي ممكن يكون هو النهائي الثاني معنا، لأنه MC ينتظرهم في الجراند فاينل، فخلونا نشوف مين بيكون الشخص الثاني.
What a treat. Let's send it over to the casters to begin MVP versus Stephano.
I am so excited for this match. My name is Loco. I'm joined here by Wardy. It is not every day that we get to cast Stephano versus MVP. I mean, it's not that long ago since I last saw Stephano play, but I'm thinking my last MVP match I saw must have been literally a decade ago.
I was thinking about this. One of my last memories of watching MVP was I came out of an exam at university. Now that's already 10 years ago. And I actually remember this. I just checked on a Ligulac and I was like, he was playing Pro League and I got my exam. I think I left like 20 minutes early, got my phone straight away, and I watched him as he like went for this big 2-base push with Ghosts and beat Emotion. I was like, let's go, MVP's back. And they didn't play Pro League ever after that. But I was actually in 2013, so it's really a long time ago. I was just trying to find it here as well, just really getting going. But I also remember when MVP quit as well. There was like a really good like goodbye MVP video, and it was like the saddest thing ever, because like when he finishes like playing a GSL qualifying, as he ends his game, he just like turns off his monitor and leaves, and it's like it was like such a feels moment, because he was truly a legend of StarCraft 2. I've never cast him in my life, but he's one of my favorite players from way back when. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing to see him doing so well. I'm also excited to see Stephano play once again. I mean, he came a little bit later in the scene, and he definitely has been playing a bit more as well ever since he did retire from the game. Whenever I think of Stephano, I always think of those Roach Maxes, specifically on Daybreak, and I believe Daybreak is going to be our very first map as well in this particular series. He was really the man who popularized those mass Roach pushes. I believe Peg already brought it up on the analyst desk as well, but that's the style I always think of, and apparently that is the map we're also starting off on.
Yeah, Stephano was just, he was inspirational to the game, right? I mean, he was the first player to play like Ling Bane Ultra, right? And like super fast melee upgrades. That is still a thing in this day and age. The Roach Maxes were just phenomenal, things we'd never seen before. People just couldn't beat it. Like he had
We still see them. We saw them in this tournament from Dark.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. The impact he's had on the game. He was the first player to go over to Korea, and everyone's like, oh, he's in Korea now. Surely not. You know, surely he can't. And he just bopped people, right? Nearly got disqualified from his first game at Pro League because he said GLHF, and that was against Hero. Hero actually replied GLHF, even though it was against the rules. They didn't disqualify him as well. That was always like a good guy hero moment. It's amazing because like I just think of these guys and there's so much history, there's so much kind of happening. It's actually just so cool to have this sort of stuff available to us, man.
Yeah, this is going to be such a fun game. I think most people are leaning towards Stephano for this particular one, just because we have seen him play more recently. Nobody really knows exactly what MVP is up to these days. Although I did see him at the hotel gym for like literally 45 minutes. He was walking in the incline, what do you call it, like the treadmill. And I saw him there when I walked into the gym, and he was still there when I left. From what I understand, he was there for literally 2 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard this story like 5 times. That apparently the only thing anyone has to say about MVP this tournament is that he was on the incline for like 3 hours. So he's got some legs.
He's in good shape is what we're getting at, man. Yeah. His wrist used to have issues back in the day, and that's one of the reasons why he ended up retiring in, I think, 2013, early Heart of the Swarm, something along those lines. But he seems to be feeling much better now.
Yeah, excited for this. I do think Stephano, in my eyes, is quite the favorite as well. But let's see what goes down as we get into Daybreak for map number 1 of this best of 5. In the bottom left-hand corner, our red Zerg player is Stephano.
And his opponent in the opposite corner of Daybreak with the blue Terran pieces. It's MVP.
I also remember MVP, I'm just going to flood with memories, right? I also remember MVP was a player who was one of the first to really utilize Ghost, right? And Ghost was so stupid back in the day. I remember watching him like take down an ST and like BlizzCon finals and so on with Ghost, and especially on Daybreak a bunch of the time. He would be playing with these Masters of Ghost and everything in TVZ, so I'm not sure we're actually going to see anything like that there, but here today, but again, just all the nostalgia kind of hitting us.
Yeah. So I already talked a little bit about the Roach mechs earlier. I really wonder what sort of strategy Stephano is going to go for, because while those strategies have changed a little bit, here's the typical GLHF, by the way. I remember him doing that, and then people on the ladder started doing it too, with the little comma as well.
Yeah, GLHF and the name is always a Stephano classic. Yeah.
I think he got the capitalization off, though. It's only capital M, but that's okay.
It used to be capital everything. Did it not used to be capital everything for MVP?
I don't think so.
Really?
He had I am MVP.
When he wrote it like that, do you not write in capitals though? Maybe.
I always thought it was kind of cool that his nickname was I am MVP.
Yeah, I am
Incredible
MVP,
miracle.
LGIM MVP as well.
Yeah.
Well, he's just so attached to the team, right? Like, why wouldn't your nickname be that? It's so cool thinking back, right? You can really, like, it really makes you realize just how deep StarCraft 2 history goes. Like, 13 years of StarCraft 2. And, yeah, just having reasons. That'll just, before we really get into this game, sometimes it's really fun to go back and like watch like an old GSTL final or something, from like way back in the day. Like there's so many Brokeback Mining Station.
Followed by the Night of the Zerg 4. Let's go.
Yeah, but it's just so cool to go back. Sometimes just like put on an hour video of like Pro League finals or GSTL finals and just like really watch it back. It's like such good nostalgia here if you haven't done that in a while. I would recommend.
So we find ourselves on Daybreak. This map, once upon a time, was considered to be absolutely massive. There were so many expansions to take that we didn't even really know where to begin. These days, though, I would consider this map to be very small, and I'm really not entirely sure how well it lends itself to the legacy of the Void meta. Now, I don't know if we're going to need all of the bases, but I guess the... okay, don't lose that Reaper. He gets a single kill, not bad. Anyways, we'll have to see how this game progresses here, because...
We did play this in Legacy of the Void, though.
Yeah, for a little bit, right?
Yeah, it came back for a little while. I believe we had an epic Neep versus Nurture game on this map where it came down to Broodlords, and then there was freaking storms all over the Broodlords, and the storms actually killed the Broods, and it was like a really sick moment. And that was, I believe, 2017, maybe 2016 or so. But
we had like that historical map pool for a bit, right?
Yeah, that wasn't even part of that, though. I don't believe. I believe it was actually like Daybreak itself was just brought into some tournament map pools as well. So yeah, it's great. Even the maps going back, like you say, like this map was the macro map. People like Daybreak is the best map of all time. This map is so bad nowadays.
Yes.
Like in the current meta.
I was being nice about it, but I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, man. So.
Triple CC start right here from MVP. He's going to be going for that 1-1-1 opener with a third command center before the starport. So this is not a strange build whatsoever. We see this all the time. Now there are little ways for the Zerg player to figure that sort of thing out. Like for example, seeing the lack of the depot in the natural expansion. But Stephano not really checking such things out just yet. So I do believe that Stephano here has a build prepared as well that he's going to be playing regardless of what his opponent is going for.
Do you have a Link Speed finishing the Reaper just scouting around? Good to scout, of course. You want to make sure that Roach Roaring isn't there, for example. There's a couple Lings. They're going to lose the speed because the creep spread's gone. There is a Queen here that should be able to finish this off, so the Reaper will go down. And we're all going to go Banshee and Cloak. This is a little old school, right? Triple CC, Banshees. It's obviously, that's the thing. This build is kind of timeless in TVZ as well. It's been around a very long time, and I'm not too surprised to see it coming. Now, the 2 extra gases, though, is it time to mech it up a little bit?
I actually would not mind that whatsoever. Yeah, a little bit of Terran mech would be cool to see. He's already got the third command center done, so his economy is going to be nice and quick. And on a map like this, I mean, there's really not that much wiggle room, right, for the Zerg. So Stephano right now going into the double Evo as well before the lair. That is something we see from time to time, but definitely not the go-to build for most Zergs. Ooh, trying to, okay, I was going to say, hunting Hellions off creep. That seems a little bit overly ambitious, but most of the time in the current meta of StarCraft 2, we see that lair first, and then into the Banelink speed, and eventually these upgrades, but There it is. The additional factories are coming up.
Yeah, and the double Evo melee upgrades is really a Stephano thing from way back when, like I said earlier, and kind of fun to see him open with that. Like you say, we see it sometimes, but not all of the time, right? We've maybe seen it once or twice this in the main event of Gamers8 so far. As we do have our factories, like you say, coming through, we're going to see this mech play from MVP. There was a time where MVP just fully switched into being a mech player as well. Like, he went from being this kind of, you know, do anything play to just playing mech because he had those wrist issues. And he did kind of try to play mech to kind of, you know, elongate his career. Was it not against Life in that GSL finals as well? He did some ridiculous Blue Flame build, Game 7, and then Life went for the Roach opening and like just completely hard countered him, and that's what denied MVP the G5L, I believe, as well. Just
that is a very long time ago. I don't remember ultimate. Look at that. He's actually also
Hyperflight Rotors!
getting the Hyperflight Rotors. Now that is the Benchy speed upgrade. We have seen that once, I believe, in this particular tournament, in the main event from Maru, yeah. Is Stephano gonna be prepared to fight against this? So the Banshees are showing up right now. He does have Sport Crawler set up, so at the very least he's got some detection, but already one Queen ends up going down, and well, he could even start targeting the second one.
Yeah, Banshee taking a few more shots. Couple of drones, but not bad. I mean, you're gonna force, you know, get a Queen as well is obviously pretty nice. There's gonna be seeing a couple extra tanks, Hellions, another Banshee on the way. Of course, if you're gonna play Hyperflight Rotors, you may as well get all the Banshees that you can up. Continue to use them throughout the game. And honestly, I feel like what MVP is doing versus what Stephano doing, MVP is way better setup because Ling Bane against mech is not the prettiest of things. As long as MVP does add a few more Hellions, he's building some Hellbats now. Kind of like MVP's position in this first game is actually pretty darn good, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it so much if Stephano could actually get a massive economy, right? But that's kind of the thing on this map. He's taken the fourth base already. He's got effectively one more expansion in the top left that he can easily take, but that's basically it. There's another base on his side, but that one is difficult to acquire as the Terran can just march up towards the high ground. So I have to see how well this Ling Bane army is gonna go against this, this Terran mech force.
Forward
MVP
base,
actually,
man.
yeah, taking a forward base.
You get a forward base and it comes free, packaged in deal with the watchtower. and that's why this map becomes a bit ridiculous, because now you literally can see the middle of the map, and then there's only 2 other attack pathways, right? So it's very narrow what you can actually try and do on this map from this point. So playing mech is great. There's not a lot of bases, so the Zerg doesn't have endless economy if the mech player just turtles up. And here we go with all of these Banshees. What we're going to go for, he hits the Sport Form moment, now tries to get the Queen as we dip around. Just going to sit on the edges, and again, if you get rid of the Queens, I mean, this is absolutely a fantastic way to deal some damage, although I'm kind of a bit unsure. How did he not lose a Banshee?
Favorite control, but I mean, that ended up working out decently well since none of the units actually died. I feel like if you do that engagement 5 times more, you'll lose at least 1 Banshee every single time, but apparently it's not going to happen this time around for MVP. Additional factories finishing up as well. We're gonna go into that Thor production here too. We did see MVP scanning the natural of the Zerg a little bit ago, and he did confirm that indeed it is gonna be the Baneling speed upgrade, so he must be feeling pretty comfortable.
Yeah. This is gonna be the Hydras, the Infestation Pit. I wonder, I kind of did favor Stephano big time coming into this series actually, but
he did bring the plushie, by the way. I was wondering about the plushie.
Oh, yeah.
That was right there on the edge, yeah.
It's on the edge of the desk. Nice. Yeah, but yeah, I was kind of favoring Stephano big time coming into this, but this is all MVP so far. I know the Banshee control maybe wasn't the prettiest, but his supply is extremely good. He's setting up onto the correct bases. And like you say, the map especially is going to limit what Stephano can do here. We already have the Hellbats in position to deny this run by into the third. Maybe a bit more SimCity and walling off there would be pretty nice, but apart from that, I like where he's setting up for. Stephano getting the spines and the Hive ready too. I do wonder how well MVP deals with the later game, because I feel like if there's someone more experienced with the more recent kind of late game, that definitely should be Stephano, so I guess we'll see, but MVP might just push across the map and kill him before then.
I was gonna say, I'm a little bit concerned of exactly that, because Stephano is still droning right now. He's only sitting at 72 at this point in the game. He's getting some static defense going, but he doesn't have any lurkers or brute lords or anything like that coming up here, so maybe he can go for Vipers. That would be a very nice unit to add into the mix against this Terran mech-based army, but he needs something. Right now it's just Hydraulic Bane, which is certainly going to run out of steam unless he can suddenly overwhelm the Terran. I don't think it's going to do much.
MVP is like, oh, just check a cheeky extraction. He's like, what, people transfuse extractors in this day and age? Like, that's not something people used to do when MVP was last active, right? Like, nowadays people transfuse drones sometimes. He does deny this base and not going to let Stephano get all the way up to 6 bases easily. And this is just a death mech push, man. Like, I actually think Stephano just dies unless he gets ridiculous connections with Bane lanes and maybe a good flank around. He is going to counterattack same time. Hellbats will do a little bit. Good split on the Hellbats as well to minimize the damage they'll take from the Bane lanes. We lose a lot of SCVs, but that's not going to save you from this big push. If MVP can just keep this going at the front, I think he's still got some good potential, man.
Yeah, this is definitely a push that is supposed to win the game. There's 9 siege tanks somewhere, but they're not with his main army. You think he's gonna have to, there you go, bring at least a few more to the front. This now turns this into a lot more of an all-in-y build though, right? He really needs to get more damage done than he's done so far. Looks like these Banshees are gonna get picked off as well. There is Cloak available, but he's not activating it.
He doesn't need a Smoke Roller anyways, as this push continues. I think MVP just needs the confidence to kind of go through, but he probably doesn't believe how good a position he's in. Like, he probably doesn't realize how much supply he was up, and to be fair, Vipers are coming out. They're going to be absolutely necessary, because without Vipers, you just can't attack into this Terran army any longer, so especially with the extra tanks coming across the map as well. I would love to see, I mean, now the Hellbats are kind of with the tanks too. I actually feel like this is going to be rough for Stephano. Knocked down to 4 bases. 4 bases versus 4 is not a pretty situation, and it's really kind of down to these Vipers to try and somewhat save the day.
All right, there we have our first abductions coming down. That's 3 Thors coming down as well for the Terran. That's decent, I suppose, but there's still so many Terran units on the back of this. Yeah, the Blinding Clouds are really good though. They allow the Hydras to cover a little bit more terrain, but there's just so much Terran on the back of it.
Yeah, Stephano's definitely doing a decentish job of cleaning up, considering the position he was in. MVP, like I say, the later game fighting and the actual engagements have not been as pretty as his setup. Like, his pure kind of macro has been pretty solid, but the way he engages, the way he's taken some fights has really not been the prettiest in the slightest, and now going to trail off a couple more tanks. He's going to try and set siege across the whole kind of front here, and looks as though he's going to get set up towards that upper left base, but I think Stephano's now going to pick him apart. He maybe need to just chill out that little bit, because these Vipers have just really been MVPs, right? They have just won him this set of fights at the very least, because without them, he wouldn't have done anywhere near as much damage as he did. He leaves those 2 tanks alive a bit too long.
Yeah, no, those Vipers are absolute key, right? Both the Blinding Clouds as well as the abductions. Very, very nice right there for Stephano. And I actually like that he committed to more than just the conventional 2 or 3 Vipers. He made quite a few of them. I was wondering what his unit to complement this is going to be, but it's just going to be Hydraulic Bane with Vipers for support here. Okay, so MVP is going to have to go back. He has started up 3-3. Is he going to go into Ghost, you think? Is that an option at all?
No. There's no way MVP has the mech transition to Ghosts down. I refuse to believe it. I think he's just going to keep playing a mech army. Like I say, the biggest issue so far is definitely not his macro. It's absolutely his engagements. They were not pretty. And a lot happened at the same time. He got counterattacked. There was a flank, but it just felt like he had a tough time deciding what exactly to do with his army. He was a little bit all over the place. Now we do have these Vipers pressing forward. I like that there's a couple Vikings on the way, because it feels like we need some sort of response to these Vipers. Otherwise, this is going to happen. Stephano's is going to get wonderfully kind of free trades, essentially. So good to get some Vikings up, zone those Vipers out a little bit. Otherwise, they're just going to keep on finding so much value.
Banshee's over here now harassing this base. I was bringing that one up earlier. It's so difficult to acquire. That's one of the things I remember from Daybreak. It's just not an easy base to secure. MVP still has that expansion here in the bottom right, so that's probably where he's going to be going next. Although the Blue Flame Hellions to the top left, trying to get some damage done.
Yep, gonna run in here, get himself 10 drones, a couple of Hydras as well, because obviously Blue Flame Hellions do not do too badly against those Hydralisks. There's a little bit of a Hellbat and tank push. Not quite the run by you see in 2023, but MVP gonna give it a go. Unfortunately, this is just gonna get wiped out, but man, every time I look at the supplies, I just see MVP is up a chunk of supply, and it's again, he's up in workers now because he just killed a few. Stephano taking a little while to replace. But we're about to get lurkers on the map, and I wonder if that's something that MVP is capable of dealing with, honestly.
This is the slowest lurker transition I've seen in months, Wardy. Like, this is a game where I think Stephano could have had lurkers out like 5 minutes ago, but he's got to get there eventually. And obviously, well, Hydra Lurker Viper with Lingbane for support is something we see all the time in modern StarCraft 2. And even though he's maybe a little bit late when it comes to the transition, he's getting there, right? And that's going to be a really difficult unit composition to stop if you don't add a few more Terran units to the mix. For example, Liberators would be really nice at the very least. A couple of Ghosts would be really sweet as well. MVP is going to need something a bit more. Despite the fact that he's up in supply right now and he is finishing 3-3, I'm not feeling too good right here about this Terran army.
MVP's maxed out, but he's probably like, well, I was maxed out last time. That went terribly for me.
Yeah, but now he's got 3-3.
Yeah, so does the Zerg. Got +3 melee, I guess. Spires on the way from Stephano as well. More potential kind of, you know, later game kind of choices to be made as this new mech army of MVP is going to start moving around the top. We knock down an Overseer, start things out, and, well, I mean, this bottom right base is on the way up. It's been cancelled once, I believe. Maybe we have Stephano making a kind of move towards that again, but this time MVP can move more kind of down this bottom side as these Vikings are going to have to get to work on those Vipers soon. Like I say, they really are important. Oh, the Lurkers! MVP scan!
Oh
yeah,
my god, well, there's a scan going down right now, but a lot of the siege tanks are still disabled with more blinding clouds coming down. And this is that cost efficiency, right, that Stephano has been looking for this entire time. The only way you're going to move forward is by unsieging tanks, riding them forward, and then re-sieging them once again, which is horrible when you do that into the Lurkers as well as into the Vipers. Little Hydra counterattack here in the bottom right-hand corner. Love to see this right here from Stephano.
For a moment, I was like, is MVP going to know what to do against the Lurkers?
I mean, he's played plenty of Brood War, I'm sure.
Yeah, I know, right?
Maybe they were in the unit when he was playing StarCraft 2, but...
I know, but it's just like, you know, sure, you in Brood War, but then how do you deal with them in StarCraft 2, right? You have different ways to deal with them as you do push up. We're going to be seeing this hatchery taking a shelling. That's one thing MVP has done. He's denied the bases throughout this game, and this is another attempt to do just that. Tanks sieging up in the front. There's just no Hellbats here, so you can't protect against the Lings, and some amount of Hellions or Hellbats would have really been a godsend right now, as you do see Blinding Cloud coming down again. These Vipers have just been so freaking good all game long.
This really shows you why the Ghost is such a popular unit choice in this particular matchup. Just shutting down those Vipers and preventing them from constantly abducting and throwing down the blinding clouds. I mean, that is, yeah, incredibly valuable. And this doesn't happen all too often. If you look at the units lost right there in the top left-hand corner of your screens, it's now the Terran who has lost more resources than the Zerg. And, well, that barely ever happens at the pro level of StarCraft 2. It really isn't supposed to.
It's just kind of funny though, because MVP, like I say, his macro has been on point. His engagements have been... They've left a little bit to be desired, right? I think that's very fair to say.
Composition is not quite my favorite. It was good the first time around, actually. The first maxed out fight, I actually was very scared right there for Stephano, but it's been an uphill battle for him ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're still pushing forward here. We're still trying to break in towards this base, but now MVP's lost his fifth, so that's going to be some economy he will probably not get back. All the income in favor of Stephano. Even if this base goes down, let's see what this fight looks like as the Hydra's trying to move forward. It's a scary amount of siege tanks. And we have been losing at least a couple of Vipers at this stage, I believe, and some Vikings still trying to get some kills as well. Running through tank fire still. Stephano finally comes forward, will get the pickup on that one.
Yeah, this is still not a scary... this is still a pretty scary Rotted Terran army, though, because there's a lot of siege tanks, and more of them are coming up as well. Do you think Stephano should make a switch into another unit at all, or is he just going to stick around with this? I mean, he could be thinking about Broodlords, for example, but I guess it's really not necessary.
Maybe build a Great Spy, but I don't think he needs anything right now. Like, it's working for him at the moment, so if it's working, why change it?
Huge arc over here as well, right? You can set up such a massive engagement.
I mean, this is the funny thing, because you can't actually flank this position, and that's what's so kind of dumb about Daybreak, is that you can just run through the middle of the map and set up through the middle of the map. It's extremely powerful. In this case, I think Stephano honestly just has a little bit too much. It's still not pretty, though. These tanks are actually shelling away at these Hydras. The last few tanks are going to try and siege up. The Hydras are continuing to get on top, and I think MVP is truly going to run out of stuff here. Stephano gruelingly makes his way through this first game. He's just going to keep on chasing the last couple tanks, getting sieged up. But MVP says GG's, and Stephano is going to pick up a game number one, which I think at multiple points he had absolutely no right running at all. But he really did take the better fights in all of this, I think is the most important thing to note. So there he is. He's going to take that 1-0 lead.
Cheeky little smile right there as well from MVP. I mean, when this map was introduced, Daybreak, was in August 2011, so that is years before the Viper ever came out. Zerg never had a unit like that.
2 years before, right?
Yeah. Yes, I think it was the Ravager and the Lurker with Legacy of the Void, so it must have been the Viper with Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so
That's
funny.
like a year and a half before the Viper.
It's so funny though to see that just one unit changes the entire dynamic of the map.
Banshees are going to go and pick off that queen there early. This really kind of was the moment where I was like, okay, MVP, I think you can get some good stuff done. This was the kind of counterattack that maybe made MVP mess up that first fight a lot, and it just felt like this first army, like he got this forward base, but then he needed to like back off, regroup, and then go again a lot sooner. He really gifted a lot of units over to Stephano, and then again, he just had zero answer to the Vipers. I think you mentioned Ghosts. Ghosts would have been great for some EMPs. Vikings sooner would have been great to at least slow down the Vipers a little bit, get some more cost back out of it, but yeah, the Vipers just absolutely controlled this game.
Well played though by Stephano. I remember back in the day whenever I used to watch him play as well, there were those moments where his supply count wasn't quite where it should have been. And it was the case as well in this match. I think when we had the Terran player maxing out, he was sitting at like 160 supply or so with a bunch of spike crawlers in the middle of the map, still adding on a few drones. Compared to 2023 StarCraft 2, Stephano droned up pretty slow, right? Normally we see the Zerg players really rushing up to that triple base saturation as quickly as possible and, well, really going straight up to like 85 if it's an option at all. In this particular case, Stephano making a few units and a couple drones and a couple spine crawlers, then a few more drones, and in the end he had the right units at the right time.
Well, we're going to be heading into our game number 2 here in just a moment. As Map 1 was actually MVP's pick, because I remember seeing the videos. I was like, it's so funny, MVP's just like instantly like Daybreak. This is my kind of map, boys. So we'll see what Stephano picked up for game number 2 here.
I'm a little disappointed to have Golden Wall vetoed twice right now. That's probably my all-time favorite map. Yeah, like it's a map that they probably haven't played on because, you know, that is, at least compared to the other maps that we're playing in these Legend show matches, yeah, it's a relatively recent one.
It's not just that though. Like A, I don't think a lot of these guys have played on it, but B, it's also a very complicated map.
Yes,
like there's
it's
so
very hard.
Yeah, there's so many possibilities and so much potential on Golden Wall that if you're going to practice for a tournament like this, I think you look at the maps and you just say, cool, my insta veto every time is Golden Wall, and I'll just prepare for every other map. Yeah. Because you could probably spend just as much time preparing for the 6 maps in the event, other than Golden Wall, as you do preparing just for Golden Wall, because that can be a different map if one player plays.
Well, that's exactly the reason why I love it.
Well, yeah, of course, that's why we love it, but that's absolutely why they're going to veto it all day, I think.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if we're not going to be seeing it a single time today, but it is kind of funny to see them immediately vetoing Golden Wall every single time. Either way, game number 2 here is going to be loading up very soon. This is a best of 5 series, so MVP is certainly not down and out, but you were bringing up the engagements. Do you think he wants to play bio at all?
I have no idea, man. That's a very tough question to answer. I've got nothing to cover.
The engagements are so hard with Bio Terran, right? And then you have the micro as well.
Yeah, but his macro is really good, so what if he just kind of stims and wins? Maybe. Top right-hand side, our blue Terran player had some solid macro, but maybe not quite the engagements we wanted. Let's see if he can bring it back. It's MVP.
And his opponent here in the bottom left-hand corner of Overgrowth, it's Stephano. There it is again. The comma and the full nickname.
Very nice of him. His Overgrowth is a map that was very loved by the community when it was around.
Yes.
And has that gold base in the center as well. Quite a short map. We had some epic TVZs on this map, actually. I think back to the Life versus Dream era, right? Where it was like, they played a lot of finals and best of 7 semifinals and Star Leagues and stuff on, you know, a lot of them came down on this map, and they had some really, really epic games on Overgrowth. So this was very loved. It was a big map during the Pro League era as well. It was actually a very Protoss map as well. I mean, people used to love kind of like Immortal pushing on this map and so on, and every single time it was like a player pick in Pro League or map pick was Overgrowth for the Protoss. Everyone would be like, let's go, Protoss got this. And like, sometimes you maybe expect to maybe go like 55-45, but like, it almost always felt like when the Protoss picked it, they won on it as well. So yeah, this map also came back for a little while. This map, once again, it's so funny because like, I don't want to be harsh, but like maps from this era are not great in today's meta because they're not built with so many of the parts of the game in mind, right? That's what's so cool about StarCraft. Our maps and our amazing map makers know so much that they have to keep in mind when they make a map, and a lot of people are like, oh, we don't see maps like this anymore. It's like, because they don't work in this meta.
No. I remember the days when Xel'Naga Caverns was considered to be a large map, right? So I was just looking at the stats for Overgrowth, and I know some of you might find this interesting. This map was so popular that when it comes to tournament maps alone, 1,020 games.
No,
4,000?
Yeah, but that's
4,720 total games. Yeah, 1,020 Terran versus Zerg specifically. I almost had the numbers mixed up because 4,700 seemed very big to me, but 4,700 tournament games on this map alone, that's ridiculous.
This map was around for so long.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm now looking up all the maps to see if there's any which have like different numbers. Daybreak had 4,800. What's like a recent map that was very popular?
I guess Golden Wall. We fell that one quite a bit.
Golden Wall.
Yeah.
Golden Wall in comparison only has 1,200 maps played. That wasn't in the ladder for too long though.
No.
Only like 7 months. That's what I mean, like some of these maps were in the ladder for such a long time. Not just the ladder, but like the tournament rotation for such a long time because people loved them that much. No,
Same build here once again, by the way, from MVP. Opening up with the 1-1-1 with the third command center really nice and early. Stephano did scout a little bit this time around, but he honestly didn't see too much. He saw the lack of the second gas in the main base, and that's nice and all. He did see the timing of the fuse structures. So I guess he knows that he is safe to do his normal build. So curious to see if he's once again going to go for the very quick double upgrades himself.
You've got me really intrigued by the amount of times every map's been played.
Yeah, 4,700 tournament games is actually ridiculous.
Yeah. No, that's that really is something. I feel like all the modern maps just don't even stick around that long. I'm gonna look up like Jagannatha. That's the kind of map I want to look at because.
What about like a Death Aura?
Yeah. Okay, Jagannatha has 4,900, so I guess that's pretty similar.
Okay, Death Aura has 4,600.
Maybe that's just actually the average amount of time a map gets played if it's in the map pool, a regular amount.
If it's like a really popular map, yeah, 4,000-ish games is the norm. That seems ridiculously high to me, but...
Yeah, all right, well, as crazy as that may seem, we do have a couple of Hellions coming now. This game is going into those Banshees. We are going to be seeing an extra tech lab coming up as well. I'm just going to get our third CC into an orbital, so no cloak just yet.
This time around? He can definitely go for Stimpack if he wants to.
He's just left to the barracks off the tech labs.
Okay. So we're going to be going into some mech. No
Yeah.
surprised here whatsoever. Anyway, Stephano going for the safety spore crawlers here at 4 minutes and 30 seconds. That is the relatively old school timing for it in case it was going to be very quick Banshees. There's instead, or indeed, that second factory coming up as well for MVP. We'll see the third one going down as well. Double upgrades first for Stephano. Okay. So unlike the TVP that we had earlier today between MMA and MC, these guys, they have a build order that they like, and I think we'll probably see it every single game.
Well, this is a very different build order though from MVP. Like, yeah, it's mech, but there's no cloaked Banshees this time, right? True. It's much faster into a lot of factories. So maybe just saying like, hey, I'm gonna cut the nonsense and I'm just gonna build a mech army and go. And to be fair, I like it based on, because I feel like that really was his strength in the last game. Like, he got set up very quickly onto the mech force, he built up quickly. So if you can do that again, I'm kind of down for it. Stephano is once more prioritizing those melee upgrades. Like you say, that part is definitely very similar to the previous game.
Alrighty, so we're going to be setting that third command center up as well. And we're going to just continuously build more and more add-ons for those factories that are finishing up right now. Lara has been fired up here for Stephano. I wouldn't have minded seeing him go for some of those classic Stephano roach pushes. That's really what I feel like he got very popular with, right, back in the day. That's a lot of factories really quickly. Yeah, that's 6, 7 factories already.
The Stephano roach pushes though as well, like, do they even work as much anymore? Like, I know you can mass roaches, right? But what was so impressive was he did it with such a low economy, and like, it hit before the economy of your opponent even had like a chance to get going. It was so ridiculous. Again, just how meta-defining that was. Maps like, I actually really remember him doing a lot on a map like Metropolis, which is also the map that MVP had that epic Archon toilet game on against
Oh, yeah. That's a long time
Not so
ago.
epic for MVP, but pretty epic in the history of StarCraft.
That was the one where all the battle cruisers got flushed away, right?
Yeah, and then he, that was also the grand finals. He 2-racked in the last game, and he flanked with the Marines. One of the sickest plays in StarCraft history.
Yep.
That when you look at it nowadays, it's like, oh, that's so obvious, but like back then it was like the sickest play. Tanks and tank. I guess this is just the plan, right? Like loads of tanks, loads of Hellions. We honestly, I think he just maxes and goes, or that's something to that kind of plan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's roughly the same strategy here from MVP. Maybe a little bit of a different way in getting there, but no cloak Banshees this time around. But roughly speaking, this is basically the same strategy right here from MVP. Are we going to be seeing a Hydra then coming down again from Stephano? I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to prioritize the Hive this time around. So just going to go, maybe he might try and go super quick ultras. That used to be the Stephano thing as well,
True.
right? So
yeah.
Super quick melee upgrades into those super quick ultras. Could absolutely be part of the plan here. Against mech, maybe not the best. Like, ultras can be a really good like follow-up cleanup unit against mech, but as part of your main initial army. But then kind of, I felt like that about Ling Bane as well. It kind of worked out last game, so let's see.
Yeah, especially if you mix in a few blinding clouds, right? Ultra Ling Bane can still definitely work if you can catch the Terran player out in the open. And well, some of the engagements that we saw in game number 1 of this series, they weren't the cleanest from MVP, but so far he's playing a solid game. But he's definitely aiming once again just to get maxed out. This is what I was bringing up in the previous game, right? The supply count, yeah, as our lovely observer is also pointing out. This is really not what we normally see in a game of StarCraft 2. So Stephano just fired up a big round of drones as well. They finished. He's at 87 workers. He's got to be able to get a good economy going, but he really needs an army by the time that MVP marches across the map. And I feel like that was the main moment in that previous game on Daybreak where MVP had a shot at winning it over.
I mean, like, in any situation right now, you have 110 army supply of mech versus Ling Bane. You just need to go and maybe not A-click, but like you should just be able to go and push. This is a short map as well. I really
all
feel
these
like
maps are short.
Yeah, I know that, but it just really feels like I just don't understand how Stephano survives this. His builds are, you know, super greedy. It's very minimal in terms of what he builds before now. It's double upgrades super early, whereas MVP just massed factories and he just decides to just go, go, go. So he's going to send it. Let's see if he can make it work this time, because last time he just couldn't quite get these engagements to go his way. This time, he's getting to push straight across the map. Let's see how it goes. The Bane's trying to reach those Hellbats. Not going to have much of a chance just yet.
Yeah, and I like this timing a whole lot better. Stephano indeed going for that Ultralisk caravan you were talking about. So this does mean that he doesn't have the gas here to really add on any Vipers or anything along those lines. Lynx and Banes are grabbing a few of the reinforcing Terran units, though. But this main army, it needs to be addressed, and there's just not enough available.
Yep, this army just keeps on pressing in. This is kind of what we didn't see last time, right? Where this army actually really had a bit more of a stronghold. It was like a bit more passive, a bit more in the middle of the map still before it really got going. It gave Stephano a lot of time to rebuild. This time the Thors are getting rid of a bunch of Overlords, and Stephano will be supply blocked, will not be able to add more into this, and as he tries to flood Lings forward, I just don't feel like they are going to cut it. He's now going to have no Banelings on the map. It's just purely Zerglings against a mech force. That's generally not good. We're going to drop some Thors into the main base just to get into action over there as well. And this time I think reinforcements get to come across the map without being denied, because MVP has just forced Stephano to use every unit he has on that main force. 6 Ultralisks coming up, but these are Ultras without +3 armor and more importantly without chitinous plating. So they are going to go down very easily, even just to unsiege, well, siege tanks, but just also to Thors. Yeah, to even Hellbats aren't going to be terrible because they're going to be soaking up quite a few of the hits. This is a Terran army that is well equipped to deal with Ultralisks. So even though the 6 Ultras on the production tab do look a little bit scary, I fully expect them to just go down within a couple seconds. Well, we can see a few of them. There you go. This is what Ultralisks without upgrades look like. Especially against mech. It's as many Thors, they do kind of just melt in these scenarios. So when the drones get pulled in, they will actually absorb a few hits, because obviously there's a lot of overkill from the Thors, as the Ultras do get to give these Thors a bit of a cuddle, but that's over half the Ultras already dead. And this Terran army is still in the main base. MVP is going to bring it back a map. We're going to get tied up 1-1. And he's actually very dangerous. If this is going to be his style of just like, I'm going to build a crap ton of mech units and just go, that's going to be very difficult for Stephano to stop if he's going to keep on building double melee upgrades, rushing to Hive. It's extremely greedy what Stephano is doing, and right now MVP is kind of hitting that timing to punish it, this time around especially.
I like Stephano right there, looking to the right. That is exactly where MVP is sitting down. He's like, bro, what are you doing right now? Why are you going for the same threat?
Yeah.
Twice in a row.
He's like looking at him, he's like, you're not going to let me macro?
No. You're not going to you're going to adjust in between games.
He's like, wait, you actually practice? I thought you didn't show up to this event with a keyboard.
He's got a full-size keyboard, though. I thought that was kind of funny. In the previous Legends game, I think it was MC who had like a full-size keyboard and a wired mouse. It's like, yes, we really are back to the good old days of StarCraft 2.
Are you hating on my setup?
I'm not hating on your setup, Morty. I'm just... Do you have a wired mouse still?
Yeah.
Really? Are you one of those
Why
guys?
would you have a wireless mouse? It's
oh,
so dumb.
no.
Do you know how many times I've had to buy time in my tournaments because one of the players is like, hey, my mouse is out of battery, I need a few minutes. So you cannot possibly convince me that it's fine when you actually have to stop mid-tournament because you forgot to charge your mouse. So I don't care what you say about, oh, this is the future, wireless mice. No, because people aren't smart enough to charge them, so no, I don't believe.
What about 10 keyless keyboards?
That's terrible if you want to use a numpad.
That's true. Numpads are for people with real jobs. So.
I use a 10 keyless on like my second PC, so it like takes up a bit less desk space. But I use my numpad all the time, so mostly for production though. Extra keys. I'm really old school, man. I don't need a stream deck. I'm just like hotkey in my numpad.
Cloud Kingdom is going to be game number 3 in this best of 5. The spotting here all the way to the top right-hand corner. One of the legends of StarCraft 2's Wings of Liberty. We have MVP.
In the bottom left-hand side, I read Zerg. It is Stephano.
Did he actually show up without a keyboard?
MVP. Well, that's what everyone's been telling me for the last 3 days. Apparently, it was like 2 days into being here, and then MVP was like, "Oh, by the way, does anyone have a spare keyboard?" Like, because that's why I was convinced MVP was going to be so hot, because he wasn't practicing or anything, right? Like, but apparently he's looking pretty good. Maybe it's fake news, man.
No, he definitely has been practicing. I mean, maybe some of these units are not the ones he's got too much comfort with, but he definitely knows how to play the game, especially against a very passive Zerg. There are definitely strategies that Stephano could go for to maybe punish the Terran here, but I mean, the triple CC into Banshee opener, it is not really something that you can punish very easily, right? You have to go for some sharp timings if you want to try and deal with that. I would assume here that Stephano is going to adjust his strategies a little bit. One of the reasons why we see the quick lair is because you can also go into a much quicker hive once you figure out exactly what it is you're playing against. And, well, we already saw in game number 1 that Vipers, for example, are pretty dang important when you're going up against the Terran mech player.
Yeah, if he gets up to those Vipers, I think MVP clearly showed us in game 1 he's not comfortable there. He's not great in that scenario. So we'll be excited to see kind of if Stephano can survive that long. Cloud Kingdom, this map layout, if you're newer to StarCraft and you didn't watch back in the day, this map layout might be kind of familiar to you, and it's because we've actually had this map layout reused as kind of a Cloud Kingdom updated. First of all, it was Galactic Process, which had kind of like a fun down-the-side backdoor entrance to the naturals. And then after that, it was more recently and maybe more popularly, Eternal Empire is pretty much Cloud Kingdom Legacy of the Void Edition. It was by the same map maker. He said, look, I took Cloud Kingdom and I Legacy of the Voidified it. You know, I made it good for the current patch. And a lot of people, when Eternal Empire was taken out of the map, were like, bring it back. This map was so good. And it was very much so based on Cloud Kingdom.
Yep. We actually have quite a few maps that look similar to other maps that have already been previously around just because the layouts are proven to work, and this is definitely one of them. This is one of the classics, though. We have seen many games over the years on this particular one. Cloud Kingdom, definitely one of the most popular maps of all time, but again, for 2023 standards, just grabbing additional expansions is difficult, right? Like, you can technically, I guess, take your 4th all the way in the bottom right here if you're Stephano. You can technically take it just north of the natural, but there's really only one great location where you can expand, and that would be down towards the low ground. And just because you're so limited in your options and the map's just pushing distances, right? There's a high ground as well, overlooking the 4th. It's...
No one expands that, though, no? As a Zerg?
Yeah, it's very tricky.
No, you expand upwards.
Yeah,
sure.
You have to.
Yeah. But then the Terran can,
but it feels so far away.
Yeah, well, the entire map is Terran based, because then you can just set up a tank line on the high ground in the middle and just control the entire map. Like, these maps really... Yeah, I don't mean to hate on the maps. I love these maps, and they were definitely great at that time, but like StarCraft has just evolved so much, and if nothing else, it's a testament to how cool StarCraft is, because these maps, you look back and they're fun to go back onto and play a couple of games here and there. But if we landed on these maps, people would be asking for them to be removed within I want to say a week, and that's being generous.
No, for sure. Now, it's fun to get a little bit of nostalgia going again with some of these maps, but to have them around in 2023 competitive play would be fun for a few games here and there, but I think a lot of people would miss them very
This is like the perfect amount to see them on that.
Yes.
Like a little tournament like this with some old players, fun kind of nostalgia-filled day. Very, very cool. CC finishes up on the high ground. Tia MVP, triple CC yet again. Once again, just a Banshee, and now adding on the gases on the natural. He is very set in what he wants to do here, man.
Yep. I am fully expecting double gas again in the natural, that he is going to be going into the Terran mech army here very soon. We'll probably see the additional factories coming up shortly. Probably wants to get rid of this Overlord first. That would not be a surprise here whatsoever. Stephano scouts out what he's going up against. Now, is he going to go for a lair this time around before the double Evo upgrades? Is he going to go into a Roach Ravager-based army? Is he going to go for, well, something that's not link-paid with double upgrades first? There's the lair. Okay,
it's going to be very different, isn't it? So lair coming up, a couple of extractors on the way in. I just want to put it into context a little bit as well, by the way. So, I don't know if Roddy told this story already, but Stephano's been practicing with Baby Marine, Reno's brother. Well, we've seen Baby Marine, recent home story cup he was playing in, and just in general, he's been improving, he's been playing a lot, and he's been looking pretty good. He's been practicing with Stephano the last few days, and apparently these games have been like pretty cool, back and forth, like really good games, which kind of sets a level for Stephano. But the additional like anecdote to this that I really loved was that Baby Marine was telling Roddy, he's like, yeah, we're playing pretty good games, but he's got a pretty unfair advantage. And Roddy's like, what do you mean? Baby's like, well, I just don't know any of these maps. Because he's just too young when these maps were around. I was like, that's so funny. So Stephano is at that kind of level.
That makes me feel a little bit
especially
old.
on these maps. Yeah, I know, man. Like,
that's so funny.
Like, these maps are so natural to me still as well. It's just so funny.
Yeah, Baby Marine is a really good player, actually. So that definitely gives us an indicator of how good Stephano actually is, right? He's probably like 6.1k LMR, something like that.
Well,
maybe
okay,
even better.
Here's a little question before we get into these road shenanigans. What would you like, which map would you like to see included in this that isn't in the map pool?
I would like to go to one of like the proper old school maps.
You're gonna Zalnaga Cavern,
something like that.
Tal'Darim Altar,
yeah.
Shattered Temple.
I would not mind seeing a cheeky little game on Steps of War.
Steps of War.
That was so bad. I remember on Steps of War, if you saw your opponent leaving the natural,
it's too late.
You could not make Zerglings in time before they got your natural.
Your natural was on the same screen as their natural. Yeah. With the zoom out feature they added in like HOTS or so, or Legacy, whenever they added the zoom out for observers, you can actually see both naturals on the screen at the same time. Yeah, same screen, two naturals. This is then, let's talk about the game a little, because it is obviously very different from
Stephano.
So what
map would you like to see, Ward?
I like an Ohana, Metalopolis. I used to love Metalopolis. When they brought Dreampool back, I 2-racked so many people. Not like 2-racks proxy, but like 2-racks like Stim Marauder push. Because it was just so, because you just walk across the map in 10 seconds.
That's a map though before we even figured out how to make naturals, right? Like that natural
is
so wide open.
I remember watching Marine King versus DRG and MLG on that map. It was like so dumb. And then Marine King Nesty and GSL, and they played a bugged version of the map, but it was the version... The version itself was correct, but they forgot to add one of the blockers in the low ground, so MKP walled Nesty into his base. And there was a massive pause, 20-30 minutes, and in the end it was the map version they practiced on.
Stephano actually mixing it up entirely here. Wow. Yeah, going Roach, Ravager, Swarm Host in this particular game. You know what? That's maybe another one of those units that MVP doesn't have as much practice against. Those got introduced back in Heart of the Swarm. No. He did play against them. He certainly has seen them before, but... I mean, the unit, it looks the same. It behaves kind of similarly, but the unit design and the way that the Locust looks is...
Here's the thing, right? You know, MVP might have only played against these for half a year in his career.
Yeah.
But he probably spent more time in game against Swarmos in that half a year than he did against any other unit for the other 3 years. Because that was really peak Swarmos kind of silliness.
I think this is actually a really clever idea, though, because the Swarmos is not considered to be a great unit in this day and age, but it's a unit that requires a very specific and a very particular response for Terran to be able to deal with it, right? And what are the odds that MVP has played against that a lot?
I mean, pretty low. I mean, to be fair, just in general against mech, like Roaches into Swarm Host is a much better setup than what we've been doing before. Stephano's supply looks a lot more competitive than the earlier games.
MVP seized him. You can hit the natural from here, I guess.
Yeah. Actually pretty, I mean, honestly...
it's only a small amount that he has.
A Nidus would be kind of cool as well, so you can go right side and top side, although maybe the map's small enough it just doesn't matter to have a Nidus to rotate around with.
Yeah. As
into the natural we go. The SCVs are going to be in some trouble, and MVP finally pulls them away, but 15, 16, 17 SCVs dropping to the first wave of loads.
Yeah, and that was only about half of the Swarmos that were activated as well. Now a few of the Siege tanks are misrallied, so more of them are going to end up going down. Roaches and Ravagers ready as well to push on the left side, and this is before the Siege tanks really can properly siege up. I think Stephano has found the answer that he's been looking for against this particular style that MVP is very fond of, it seems. I mean, more benchies here would have been nice, I suppose, right? The Queens especially, yeah, they just got sniped, so they are no longer around here. This is really painful.
This is obviously Stephano after 2 games being like, you know when he was like on stage looking over him? I feel like he's thinking, are you just gonna like mech me every single game?
Yeah.
He's like, because if you're gonna do that, I'll just make this very boring, man. I'm just gonna build Roaches and Swarmos and I'm gonna have a good time. So I wonder if this instigates any kind of a change from MVP going into the game after, because I feel like the first 2 games, even though he lost game 1, he clearly realized he could do well enough to win the game, right? But now in this game 3, if this is what Stephano's going to start doing, I don't feel like MVP has a lot of a chance at all. He's going to have to change it up in some kind of way, so very interested as to what that might look like. We try to get the tanks across here. They're going to shell these Roaches pretty hard, but we've already taken so much damage. Once again, Locusts are in the natural expansion.
There's a bunch of drones over here.
Oh yeah, why not?
You get a Batman and Hatchery in as bonus third base just to, you know, go back to Wings of Liberty all the way. I remember seeing that a couple of times. Be considered very rude in 2023. Yeah, he's doing okay with some of these small trades, right? But if you zoom out in this particular game, it's very obvious that Stephano is just miles ahead of the opponent. The reaction speed is not quite there anymore, right? Can we have a cheeky look at the APM counter for both of these players? There we go. Okay, so you know what? That's actually much faster than I expected. That's actually really sick.
Stephano is always very quick.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of those things where obviously you use some speed, but like if you're able to play fast, like you still have like a baseline level of speed, right? Like maybe your hands get a bit slower, but these guys are playing so quickly anyways. Losing a bit of speed over time is maybe not the biggest devastating factor. The Thor drop coming in. I like that MVP is trying to do something to bring some attention over here, but he's just bleeding units in the middle of the map, and Stephano, this is the most convincing he's looked to me all series, because again, I feel like game one, he was a little fortunate to not kind of die initially, and he looked great with the Vipers, don't get me wrong, but this entire game, he's looked like he's had it under control, his build's been much better against what MVP is doing, and it's just not even really been half of a chance at any point in time, it feels like, for MVP, who these couple of units over here are just not going to do anything at all.
Yeah, I can also imagine that Stephano hasn't had a lot of practice against, GG is called by the way, against this straight up mech style, right? This is MVP style that we've been seeing in all three of these games so far. It's not what we really see in 2023 anymore. We do see a lot of Turtle Terran styles, I suppose, with the quick planetary fortresses on maps like, for example, Gresven and Neo-Humanity, but it's different. It looks very different and it plays very differently as well. This is a much more old school approach, and maybe we should be surprised. But I guess now that Stephano has figured out what the counter is, I think MVP is going to have to mix it up.
Yeah, I genuinely think so as well. I don't think you can come out of that last game and be like, oh yeah, I'm safe, just do the same thing again. Like, it was fine if Stephano's going to keep playing the same way. Now I don't think it is, which makes me wonder what the heck else is he going to do? Maybe we just go proxy wraps. Yeah, that's kind of what I think as well. Like, maybe we just build the barracks across the map. Maybe we just get those Marines and SCVs going and doing that dirty business early in the game. Because, yeah,
I wouldn't mind that at all.
No,
like, there's a lot of... Like, right now, we don't see that many proxy Rexes, I suppose, in Terran versus Zerg, but it's not a build that will ever really, truly go away. It's very powerful when executed properly.
Yeah, no, it's very true, as those the space has to lift off. That was really just, like I say, domination from start to end from Stephano, right? Like, this entire game was just so convincing from him. As, yeah, this is going to be a must-change situation for MVP. You know, from game 1 to 2, he did kind of go from kind of the Banshee heavy style to the non-Banshee style. But I don't even think playing like heavy on the Banshees would be... Maybe playing heavy on the Banshees would be a bit more of a saving grace than against this. Maybe that is one thing you can go back into while still playing kind of like a mech-ish style. So maybe that's a possibility.
We'll have to see here. Stephano obviously not shy to play Mutas either. We haven't seen that yet, but he used to play that quite a bit too back in the day. A lot of options available here. I think actually right now, I think Proxy Barracks would be an excellent option. But then like a complete all-in variant of it, you know? Like not one of those half-committed pushes where you try to deal a little bit of damage and then play macro on the back of it. I think you should probably just go full cheese.
I'm very excited, man. These games have been so cool. Such a pleasure to be part of this. So nice to just do something a little bit different. We obviously got an epic lineup of quarterfinals later today in the main tournament. I know, but what a great way to kind of warm up, get the viewers going a little bit. Like I say, it's been so fun to kind of just like nostalgia, nostalgia vomit a little bit, right? Just like blurt out all the nostalgia as, oh, I could tell you a thing or two about this map. Did you guys know that Scarlet off-race and beat DRG in an MLG series on Frost? She proxied on the right side and pushed into DRG's third base. She was top right, he was bottom right. Yeah, okay. All right, guys, we're not even playing cross-spawn Frost. In the bottom left, this is the best spawn location for him on this 4-player map. A blue Terran player looking to tie it up once again is MVP.
And down here in the bottom right, it's Stephano. I have not seen a game on Frost in a very long time. This map was around for quite a while, right? We saw so many games on it. The thing is, this is not your regular 1 versus 1 map. Well, it is a 1v1 map, but it's got 4 different spawn locations, and that's the key. You already brought it up. There are different balance situations depending on where you actually spawn. So for MVP in this particular location, it's really good for him because, well, you can explain it. The third baser for the Zerg is going to be tricky.
So, yeah, if you take this base, MVP can push through the bottom and siege high ground. So you can't take that base, not even as a 4th. So then you have to expand upwards. But that means your 4th base is then, you know, 3rd base fine, but then the 4th base above that is very difficult to get to because there's just no natural pathway there. You have to go all the way around. It just becomes awkward. And, you know, basically, for the most part, you can kind of ignore, in this game, the top half of the map, because this is kind of just bottom left versus bottom right. So it's kind of like 4 base versus 4 base for a bit. But here's the thing as well. What's maybe even not so much, you know, I guess the main thing is it's like the close spawns here are good for the Terran. It's just the cross spawns are so good for Zerg.
Yes.
Like if you spawn bottom left as MVP and Stephano's in top right, this becomes a massive map where it's an untouchable set of bases for the Zerg super early in the game. It's so long to rally across, it's super open for the Zerg to surround you. So the close spawns are emphasized in how good they are for the Terran because of the fact that the cross spawns are just so bad for the Terran as well.
No, you're absolutely right. It's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. It's also exactly the reason, though, why we don't really see 4-player maps anymore in 2023. So you see the little mind game over there with the Overlord? Yeah, he saw the Overlord going diagonally, so MVP right now is making the assumption that the opponent is in the top right. He's going to check out this natural, and he must realize now there's no creep. Is he convinced, though? Okay.
Yeah, he seems pretty convinced, so...
At least Stephano has taken his third in the right location, right? Because this could have been really awkward.
Which is very good for Stephano. I think you just take it there no matter what. Even if it's cross spawns, then that's a little bit worse, but you just don't really have a choice because it's so bad for you if it's close spawns. Although if it's... And he sent his Overlord top right, so he also knows his opponent isn't there, so it's not a bad base to take if his opponent's top right, because then maybe you can take the southern base, even if it's still good to be dropped on, so... Yeah, it's a very interesting map in terms of the base you take, but what it comes down to is it gets very figured out, and this is why in the old days when StarCraft was less figured out, these kind of maps were fine. They added kind of like a little bit of an RNG element, but it wasn't so bad. Nowadays, StarCraft 2 is played with such perfect information that playing a 4-player map, not knowing your opponent's spawn and stuff, forces you to make choices early in the game that aren't necessarily ideal, and a lot of it's a very kind of hotly discussed topic. Some people think that that's fine. Some people would say no, that actually makes for worse games, right? So it's really up in the air. I personally think it makes for worse games. I like having set spawns, so yeah, takes out the random element.
Yeah, at least having some information as to where your opponent spawned with like an indicator on a mini-map or something like that. I know there have been many different variations of that over the years in StarCraft 2, but at least in the modern day and age, we don't really have 4-player spawns anymore just because it's so, well, difficult to properly balance it. Most of the time, the players are just going to instantly veto it, so the only way to really force it is by having like multiple in the map pool, but then it becomes a very significant balance problem. Either way, we've got a lot more links here coming up for Stephano. Not really a link flood though, mostly just using them for defense. 4-minute lair. Now that is a quick one. I think he's just looking at this. He's like, yeah, I don't even really need to scout you anymore.
It's a blue flame opener, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit different this time around. I think he's making the assumption he doesn't really need to scout him anymore, but this is a different build right here from MVP. So blue flame Hellions with a third command center. This can deal a lot of damage, especially if Zerg is stuck playing Ling Bane, but Stephano has already fired up the Roach Ward.
Yes, he has. I think Stephano just knows, hey, if you're clearly most comfortable playing mech, I'm just going to set up well against mech initially, and that's exactly what you get to do by going into Roach Warren. And against the Blue Flame Hellion build, this really shuts down a lot of the pressure Blue Flame Hellions should typically be looking to find, so I'm just going to be seeing that this is going to be a pretty good start already for Stephano, I would say, as that Reaper just about gets out of there in time.
Yep, he's going to need a round of Roaches here soon before the Blue Flame Hellions really get across the map. MVP, by the way, expanding towards the opponent. That's another thing about these particular spawn locations that make it very tricky. Generally speaking, Terrans don't really mind it. We've got ourselves a very quick Nidus network. Keep in mind that Stephano doesn't really know exactly what he's playing against, so he's planning to go for a Roach Nidus. Yeah, accidentally, I guess, a really good build right here against what MVP is doing.
I think it might just win him the game straight up. Like, not to be super
there's no
boring.
siege tanks.
And I think he has a corner in MVP's main base that MVP doesn't see as well. So if the Nidus just goes up there, yeah, I mean, this is just game ending. There's purely Hellions. Blue Flame's going to do nothing against the Roaches. You can kill half of Stephano's workers across the map, but you're still not going to kill the Roaches out in your main base. And that's going to be the biggest issue here for MVP.
There's no unit here that's good against Roaches. It's just going to be a bunch of Hellions. There's one Marine. That Marine's job is to deny that Nidus worm, and he is just standing there on his lunch break for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, Roach is going to deny these Hellions as well. And these Roaches can defend, then jump into the Nidus. There's a lot more Hellions up here. We will get some drones, but the thing is we don't even need to kill. You know, we don't even need to save every single drone because we're going to do so much across the map. The Roaches start spawning out of that Nidus here, as yes, we're losing drones, but again, the damage in this main is going to be rough. We're starting to build some Cyclones, which is going to give you some ability on the defense at least, but it's obviously still not ideal either. And as the Hellions get cleaned out over here, it's now going to be all about MVP's main base, where we are just going to be seeing these Roaches just, well, killing all the SCVs, killing off the Hellions. GG's. Stephano really did adapt to what MVP was doing and just turned this series right around on its head.
Lovely little attack right there from Stephano, preparing a timing attack that he knew his opponent was going to be struggling against, and despite the fact that he didn't know exactly what he was playing against, it turned out to be the perfect counter against MVP's strategy. Love to see the man succeed again after, well, not watching him play for a very long time.
I know, how freaking cool is it just to get to see these players. And now our finals is set up in this Legends event, which is going to be MC versus Stephano. The last time they played, 2014, 3-2 to Stephano back then, 9 years ago.
A show match in Paris.
A show match in Paris. Yeah, very cool stuff. Some ZVP finals setting up, as Stephano is going to be the winner of this one here against MVP. Like I say, loved his adjustment that he was able to make. Love how he changed things up a little bit. And very cool to see MVP here as well. Very cool to see him, because we just haven't seen him for such a long time as well. So very cool stuff. This Legends event will have Stephano and MC in the grand finals. Now let's hear from Stephano.
Stephano, welcome back to the big stage. How does it feel to be back up here?
Always a pleasure, you know it.
We are so glad to have you back. It's been a joy watching you play just today, and we want to know how much you missed it.
I did miss it a lot, mostly winning, because that's where the fun is, right? But being on stage, doing the interviews, it's always a pleasure. It's been a long time we didn't see each other on that stage, right? So here we go again.
Yeah, I don't know if I can dance Gangnam Style like we used to.
No more. We're all back pains and stuff. Okay. Let's stop with it.
زي ما تشوفون أعزائنا المشاهدين معنا ستيفانو بعد فوزه في المباراة سألناه عن شعوره بتواجده في مسرح عالمي بعد فترة طويلة من آخر مرة شفناه في 2014. كان يقول إنه جدا سعيد إنه تكون متواجد هنا، وأكثر شيء أنا بتحمس له أصلا إنه هو الفوز، إنه هنا المتعة أصلا إنك توصل للمسرح وتفوز وتسوي المقابلات وكل شيء. وزيادة على كذا آخر مرة هو وريتشل تقابلوا مع بعض كان قبل سنين جدا طويلة، فهم مبسوطين إنهم مع بعض في المسرح.
Well, you're one of the few players that's been really sticking with it over the years. You still play a lot of StarCraft 2. Tell me what that's like and how you've watched it evolve. Streaming, right?
No, I stopped playing for a year and a half now, so I'm retired for real this time. Oh. So third retirement is the right one. But yeah, honestly, I do like the stage that the game is in. I feel like it's gotten a lot more balanced and fair, and it's hard to play, I must admit. It's really hard. It goes fast, and but apparently I'm still able to win. But you had to arrange some kind of match for me to be able to win, and I do appreciate that, guys.
زي ما تشوفون ستيفانو في سؤاله الثاني في هذه المقابلة كنا نتكلم عن الهيستوري حقه، خصوصا انه هو ثالث مرة يعتبر نفسه كلاعب متقاعد، بس يقول انه المرة الثالثة هي الثابتة، هو المرة يبي يتقاعد في ستار كرافت. لكن في السنة الماضية او السنة ونصف الماضية اللي ما كان يلعب فيها كلاعب محترف كنا نسأله عن الستيت اوف ذا جيم وكيف هو شايفها الآن وكيف حالة اللعبة. كان قاعد يقول ان اللعبة شوفها انها مرة بالانسد، وبالعكس انه تحسنت اكثر بكثير، بس جدا صعب انك انت تلعب الحين على مستوى محترف.
Well, you're going to be going up against MC in the finals of our Legends show match here. I think in the last 10 times you've played him, you've won about 8 of those. So how are you feeling about your odds?
Thank you for telling me that. I had no idea, to be honest. So I feel a little bit better now. But between you and I haven't practiced at all ZVP, because I thought MMA would win. Everybody told me MMA would win. And here I am like an idiot on stage and playing against MC right now. So hopefully I can try to play one game for practice beforehand. But anyhow, it's going to be easy.
زي ما تشوفون سألنا ستيفانو السؤال الأخير عن بخصوص الجراند فاينل اللي بيكون معنا في الستار كرافت 2 ليجندز اللي بيكون ضد ام سي. ايش رأيه في هذه المباراة؟ يقول صراحة أنا ما كنت أتوقع إني بفوز أصلا المباراة، وكل الناس قاعدين يقولون إنه ام ام اي هو اللي راح يفوز، ما راح يكون أنا. فأنا الآن مستغرب جدا وأحس نفسي إني بغباء شوي إني أنا ما جهزت المباراة أصلا ومتوجه إلى الجراند فاينل ضد ام سي. فعلى الأقل بحاول ألعب جيم واحد أتدرب فيه، بعدين بحاول أواجهه في الجراند فاينل.
And is it too much of a throwback to ask what you'd do with the money if you won?
I stopped putting it in the bank. Now I have a mallet I carry with me, close to my body, never far away from me, my money.
Excellent. Never far from your money, never far from Cujo either. Glad to see him back.
زي ما تشوفون أعزائي المشاهدين سألنا ستيفانو السؤال الأخير، نتكلم عن إيش بيسوي في المبلغ اللي بيفوز فيه في حالة إنه فاز فيه في النهائي. يقول إنه صراحة أنا خلاص ما صرت أحط فلوسي في البنك، أنا دائما أغبيه معاي دائما، فهذا اللي بسويه بعد ما أفوز في البطولة.
I'm going to send it back to you guys in the studio for another look at Stephano's matches.
على طول بنروح للاستوديو أعزائي المشاهدين نتكلم أكثر عن وش صار بين MMA وستيفانو في هذه المباراة.
Winners interview in 2023. Yes, he's able to move on to the final here in the StarCraft 2 Legends tournament, and he's going up against MC. MVP, though, looked pretty damn good during this. I don't know what we were expecting coming into this. ZG Pig joining me here, Stephano victorious, but a lot of mech coming out from MVP in this series, ZG.
It was. I believe Stephano was actually trying to search around before the series started to determine if that would be the case, and it was a pretty good guess, actually. I mean, originally he started playing a lot of mech, not just because it actually ended up working out for him, but actually because of his wrists.
Yeah.
So he wanted to play something that was slower, required basically less APM, let's be real. But to do it again when you are older and a bit out of practice, I think does just make the most sense. But it was pretty cool that MVP still tried to vary it up a little bit, right? Some more dedicated mech pushes, the Banshee opener as well, and I feel like it was nice of Stephano maybe to give that one map away because Ling Baneling versus it was a bold choice indeed, but it just ended in a decent best of 5, right? We had some fun there. I liked seeing MVP in the prime stage before he left us.
Yeah, definitely. Pig, your thoughts?
Incessant tank pushes in game 1 had me scared for Stephano. I was definitely thinking things were looking a bit worrisome. The Ultralist tech choice there, a bit too slow to get out, and the Ling Bane did get overwhelmed. I mean, MVP's macro was spectacular.
Yeah.
His money was so low, it was a constant stream of units. But we saw that once you start running into those Vipers and Hydras being used really well, things get very difficult.
Yeah, they do. As we move on to game 3 as well, I mean, we were all expecting, when's a little Proxyrax going to come out? When's the MVP special going to rear its head? It wasn't to be, though, ZG.
No, I mean, I'm glad we got some mech versus Swarm host for the Heart of the Swarm feels. Thanks for that. Then the final map was Frost, which was, as you guys might have noticed, a 4-player map. Yeah, and it wasn't one of those ones where we forced people to start playing cross-spawn, which did happen eventually towards the end of the lifespan of 4- and 3-player maps, but that means you can't really do Rex. I mean, you can put it in the middle and then scout, and then it's sometimes
really
worth it.
Yeah.
Very, very cheeky. I wouldn't have minded it, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we were even talking about, when was the last time we had a close spawn situation on some of these maps back in the day, and it was a long, long time ago. But there you go. Here is the bracket confirmed. 3-1, 3-1 in both of our best of 5s, and now we have MC versus Stephano. Of all the players that were able to attain the very top of StarCraft 2, Pig, these two were some of the most flamboyant when it came to victories, when it came to kind of celebrations. So we're going to see them in the final.
Thumbsing down in front of their opponents, sometimes just the utter frankness kind of being the smack talk of Stephano, whereas MC was a little bit more kind of in your face and kind of going there and saying, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to smash you down. I think it's a great match. The other two players played very well, but at the end of the day, a Zerg versus Protoss between two of the players with the biggest character, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, definitely so. ZG, your thoughts coming into the final?
I actually didn't believe that they played almost 10 years ago. That was the last time they played.
Yeah.
Because either there was some home story cups that they went to and stuff, so I thought maybe it must have happened, but no. But as exciting as the finals will be for the players that we have, and a Protoss in the finals.
Yeah.
There's something I'm excited about that I can't reveal quite yet.
Oh.
You guys should really be paying attention for the next opening of the finals.
Interesting. I don't even know what this is, but we'll find out, I suppose, in a few moments' time. We are going to go to a break, though, here, ladies and gentlemen, and when we return, we are going to have the finals of the Legend Tournament. It's MC versus Stephano, best of 5. Let's get it going.